Hey, what's up, guys? We got a race report live tonight with Nichole Elff. So, not a lot of people probably know about Nichole yet. I think you're gonna know about Nichole. She runs basically true street trim World Cup, which is like 67 millimeter. But other than that, kind of like a sport front package, right? Just smaller turbo. But anyway, so they're local to us out at Fort Piston. They're just literally a couple blocks away from us. So we've known them for years and years and years, and they just went out last weekend and as you probably have seen, went 8-0 on a 67, which is super impressive. I think that's the record for a 67. I'm not sure. Well, I'm gonna ask her. She'll know. But yeah, so like I said, I've known her since the early days of playing with cars. She's been in it a long time here in the Indianapolis area, and I knew her and I knew her husband Damon long before they were married or dating or anything. So it's been cool to know them throughout this whole process and see them progress and stuff like that. So let me go ahead and add her here, and we'll get going.
Hey guys, if I have any internet connection issues, just let me know. I've been struggling a little bit with that. Hello, Nichole.
Hey Matt, how are you?
Sideways. There you go.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good, kind of recovering after the long week. I feel like I'm digging out at work and trying to regain my sleep after a lot of like short nights.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. It's like you go out there to, have fun and relax, and you end up just busting your ass working all weekend.
Yeah, thankfully we didn't end up working a lot, but we partied a lot, so and we drank a lot, which is something I don't do a lot. So I have to recover.
Well, what do you do for a living?
Uh-oh.
You there? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here now. Sorry.
Sorry. What do you do for a living?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you not hear me? Sorry. Yeah, we're gonna go no Wi-Fi.
Huh?
Are you there?
Oh. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. All right. So I think there might just be a little bit of lag or something in the voice. Your picture is a little grainy, and I don't know if your Wi-Fi is very strong where you are.
It should be good. Let's see. Could go. My service isn't that great because I live in the middle of nowhere.
That's all right. So the audio is there. So I like to treat these kind of like a podcast anyway. So I don't really give a shit about the video. So let's just keep on rolling here. So what do you do for a living?
So I'm an engineering manager for a medical device company. So all the components that go into our medical device, my team deals with making sure they stay in specification, and we work on improving them and making them better and trying to reduce cost. And so all these medical devices that we make that make people's lives better, my team's a little bit a part of that.
That's cool. That's really cool. I guess what have you been up to today?
Today has primarily been so just kind of catching up at work, really. I have a team of like 16, so making sure nothing fell apart the week that I was gone. And then we're going to be working on the car a little bit later tonight just to kind of catch back up on things after the Derby. I keep wanting to call it World Cup Finals, but it wasn't. So the Derby. Yeah, nothing too crazy going on today after the long week. We definitely still have a little bit of unloading. I feel like that takes longer to unload than it does to pack the trailer for these trips.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, so let's talk about some of your past in racing, and basically, and I'd like to start as far back as possible, right? So, like, who or what initially got you interested in cars, period?
Let's see. So I'm probably going to fall into that group of Fast and the Furious came out, and it was about that time frame that cars were really interesting for me. I was graduating high school, so I was actually going to buy my first real vehicle of my own instead of using my mom's. And the idea of speed, I've always been a bit of an adrenaline junkie. My mom was a horse trainer when I was growing up, so I would ride horses and do like shows and eventing and kind of all kinds of stuff with different type of horsepower speed there. So 2001 is when I bought my Integra, and it was just an LS Integra, and it was lowered because I was going to college. It wasn't quick at all. I thought it was quick. Followed kind of the whole like car show scene and did a little bit of like the street racing back in Cincinnati because that's where I'm from originally.
Okay.
And yeah, even went to like Nopi Nationals and stuff like that and kind of checked out the scene. I was never a big like show person though. I was always I wanted to go fast and be a little bit understated. I would say that's probably my style even now, is kind of clean lines and keep it simple.
Okay. So did you start modifying the Integra?
Yeah, it was lowered. It had an intake, it had an exhaust on it, and I believe, yeah, that one had an SAFC as well. Old school. Did like nothing for the car.
Used to race your friends in college and shit?
Yeah, so street race a little bit, and then I never had the fast car. So when I was my senior year of college, that's when I got my Civic, because I knew if I wanted to go fast, like back then it was you want a light Civic. So I swapped it. I bought it completely bone stock from this like grandma, and swapped a GSR motor in it, had a peak boost turbo kit on it. I don't remember what size it was, but maybe made like 300 horsepower. And I got my first experience of having a boost controller defect, and we over boosted, I think on the dyno with that car, went shortly after I put the turbo on it.
Yeah.
And cracked the sleeve.
Oh.
And that's kind of how I got introduced to you guys a little bit. I think at that point I decided I wanted to build the motor instead of just putting another stock motor in. And Luke was still working at, I'm trying to think of where you guys were working before Four Piston. What was the name of his shop? I can't remember it. Yes. Yeah, it was Stewart. So you guys built the first built motor in my Honda Civic.
Okay.
I think that was like 2006 time frame,
Yeah.
a long time ago.
So,
and go ahead.
Real quick though, who did you turbo that first stock block by yourself, or did you have anybody helping you, or you were just kind of like internet warrior and figured it out?
Yeah, I had a couple of friends that helped me. So my friends still now, Ben Chang, he was a big part of that. And then also at that time I was dating Tony Morgan. So he helped me out as well, figuring out what to do with that. And it's always kind of been a collective effort to try to do some of this. And I would say, yeah, I guess a lot of like back in the days when like Honda Tech, you could find up everybody's like general swaps and things of what you wanted to do. So a lot of internet research.
Yeah, it's a shame. I have this conversation, I feel like, pretty regularly, but it's like the forum days were so good for the community.
Yeah.
And now it's like information is so spread out and parceled out that it's so hard for some of the new guys to get that roadmap, I feel like. So
I agree. Even when I'm searching for something, you have to be a member of this like group, and selling stuff was so much easier. I felt like, at least, especially in Indiana, there's not a large population of like Honda people out here. So you really have to sell it outside of the state. And so you have to have the right forums or right groups to be involved in. And I really do miss the forum days. There's just a ton of information, and even like a lot of entertainment as well. Cause I'm one of those, like, I like to sit back and watch people. Like, I'm the person with the popcorn just watching all the drama go on. I don't want to start the drama.
Yeah, remember Indy Cars?
Oh yeah.
There was always something going. Actually, your husband was usually part of it.
Yeah. He's been banned from quite a few forums. So he is my shit talker.
Dude,
He talks all the smack for me because I'm not good at it.
yeah.
And yes, he's been banned. NDHP was like the elite forum for the fast cars, and I think he got kicked off of it for a while, but I was on it. And at one point, I was at the top 10 list on NDHP, which we have some pretty fast cars.
Yeah.
I think that was back when I was still like a 10.0 car, because NDHP probably went away like 5 or 7 years ago. I still had a sticker on my old hatch as well.
Remember that sticker, yeah. So, all right, so we build the motor at Stewart's, and then how much power do you make? How does that setup go?
I think we really kind of topped out about 450 or 500 horsepower on that setup, and I would race it locally. I did a couple like the IFOs in just Ohio, and then we used to have Slam Fest or Import. I forget what the name of that import show was.
Oh,
Uh,
am Truck Bash.
yeah,
Right,
and I used to race you in the Neon, and we were like so pretty freaking close. You were just a little bit faster than me because I was still a 11-second car at that point. And the dang Omni, when that Omni would show up, he was like 11.0. You were like, I think 11.0, and or maybe even tens at that point. I think you might have been high tens. And I was like, it was close between us at that point because we were all kind of like moderate build cars.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it was a lot of fun. I say this to this day, like my 450, 500 horsepower Honda Civic, I had the most fun with it
Yeah.
because I drove it to work. I mean, there was times I was driving it to work because I drive on like the back roads, and I went to pass someone. I looked down and like, oh shoot, I'm going 120 because I just like laid into it. I didn't even like downshift, like laid. I was like, whoop. Maybe I should slow down.
Agree, man. So when my car was like 500 horsepower, it was literally the most fun. When I had a 62 mil, or well, no, I guess it was a 61 back then, SC61, which was about 500 horsepower. That was the most fun. The most fun. Everything past that has just been this like huge headache.
Yeah. And you get addicted to it. So it's like everyone's like, oh, you keep building your car. And I'm like, yeah, because it's a drug. You just want to go faster and faster, and you want to beat everybody. And that's kind of the reason I turboed the car initially, was I wanted to be faster than the boys because they wouldn't let me into the club sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm one of those people, you tell me I can't do something and I will prove you wrong because I'm just a determined little bugger. So yeah.
I mean, you got to be with this turbo shit. You
It
got to be real determined.
It's brutal, really brutal. I mean, this year's been hard because I've had issues all along the builds. Like I take a couple years off because I get frustrated with the car. So if I look back at my timeline, like I took a couple years off. I made a big jump in 2009. I put the 42 on the car, and that really was jumping up to the next level from like a 500 horsepower car that was streetable and fun to I'm building a race car. And I didn't entirely know what I was doing while building a race car.
Yeah.
So it was really frustrating. I didn't invest in some of the parts I probably needed to make that experience a little bit better. And I'm really hoping to try to help spread some of that knowledge to some of the people that are out there. If you want to go fast, you're going to have to buy a dog box. And I held off on that for the longest time because that $7,000 commitment was just, it's easier when it's like 1,000 here, 1,000 there, but it's like 7,000 all at once. It's like, oh, that's a lot to swallow.
No, you're right. You're right. It's like, it's one thing to sink 10 grand into the motor, but for some reason sinking 7 into the transmission just doesn't feel the same.
Yeah. And that's
So
even with like engine management too. I mean, I've gone through the evolutions of engine management. I've had like a chip DCU to a standalone engine management system to like a Motec now, which is the, you know, the cream of the crop when it comes to engine management. And I every financial investment along the way, I was like, why didn't I make this jump earlier and probably save myself a lot of heartache and a lot of money along the way of stuff I've broken.
yeah. All right, so you go to a 72 mil turbo, and then this is still in your old chassis that you got in college or at the end of your college, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I raced that chassis all the way up until this year.
Okay.
So it was like, I think it was the Nope or the NHRA Nope series came to Indy in like 2008.
Yeah.
And I remember that vividly because I remember Luke racing the Insight and him and I were chatting and he's like, they had this whole expose of all the pros out in front of Best Buy. And I still have this. He's like, no one's gonna know who I am. I'm not gonna have any fans. So I made a shirt that said like I love Luke Wilson on it. And I came. I think his girlfriend at the time probably didn't realize I was just joking and I was just an innocent friend. But definitely made a fool of myself just to try to cheer him up. But I remember that, and I remember seeing like Courtney Green, who I'm still friends with to this day, and Tony Palo just coming out and just laying down 9-second passes. And at that time, it was like 9.3s, I think, was stupid fast. And I was just like, wow. I hadn't been exposed to that, I guess, as much. And it was just like, I can do that. And that's really what kind of made me make the jump to the 72.
Okay.
And then a lot of like a couple of years of learning and frustration. And then we built a garage at our old house and got married. And, you know, life kind of took precedent for a while. And then I would say I kind of got my butt back in gear. I got the itch again. And for everyone that says they want to sell their chassis and just because they're done with it, I say take some time and breathe if you can, because I'm so glad I never got rid of mine. And I would say it's probably like 2000, like 15. I think I kind of got back into it. And the technology had really like grown so much that I had this like outdated setup at that point.
Yeah.
That I tried to run, and I think I ended up getting it down to like a low 10-second time with that outdated setup. And I look back now, I'm like, had I known things about weight distribution and like all these other things that I could have gone so much faster in that car and
Oh,
that setup.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hindsight's funny, right? I mean, shit.
Yeah.
Well, so, all right. So you go bottom tens in that chassis. So at what point do you decide to move on to a different chassis? Because I know you're in love with that chassis.
I still have the chassis. It's sitting over right here. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that chassis long term. I've kind of held on to it, but I kind of continued through my progression of turbo changes. So I went to, go ahead.
I know what you should do. 500 horsepower turbo setup.
So I've debated on like a street all-wheel drive setup.
Oh, all-wheel drive.
Maybe. We'll see. It's not gonna, it's for, so people that know us, we don't get rid of cars like ever. So it's further down on the project car list.
Yeah. I got the same problem. I get attached to shit.
Yeah, we have, well, the Supra's next. 2021 is Supra's year. We got to get it done for Damon, or I'm going to keep hearing about it on the internet.
All right. All right. Sorry, I interrupted you there. So take me back to the changeover to the new chassis, I guess.
Yeah. So changeover to the new chassis was really, if I take a step back just a little bit. So I think there's kind of an interesting part of my story that we went to like a 67, 66 turbo, and that kind of really got me into the low nines. And we had gone to World Cup. We're debating on how many years, somewhere between 8 and 10 years. And a little bit of liquid courage got brought up about 2 years ago while we were in the stands. And at that point, I had a 9.3 car. And I said, you know what? We're going to qualify for World Cup next year.
Ah.
And this is with my chassis as is. And we basically changed up to the 6785 turbo, just the second gen, and ran it with like all glass, all steel. Like the car had not been put on a diet. We just added a weight bar on the front and like some minor upgrades really to like, I actually had a staging brake last year, which I had run for the longest time without a staging brake. And we managed to run like our first 8-second pass on that setup with like kind of a fat Civic, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And then last year we ran, so we went to World Cup. We qualified under the first round ET, which there's a lot of drama to that because we run at a track that has a really skinny groove. So Muncie, you've been up there before.
Oh yeah.
And the car was just on a pass, and we were just running pass after pass because I needed my minimum ET. And getting good track prep around here is hard to come by sometimes. So they had a radial night, and I was like, this is it. And so we ran it, and I got slightly out of the groove at the 1,000-foot, so I just tapped the brake, and Damon stopped recording the video. And that was my 876 pass. That was my minimum ET, but he did not get the scoreboard, so it didn't count.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so we then had to keep going back to the track because Muncie, once it gets too late, the track just starts to do over and isn't quick, or slick really. And so we kept running and running, and it took us probably 3 more times out to get back under that 880 target. And it was, I think, like 3 or 4 days before you had to submit your slips. And it was so stressful. Like, are we going to make it first round? Because True Street sells out so fast. But we got it done. And then we went to World Cup. We qualified. I have this awesome pass of me when I ran Adam Dean in a TA. And basically my car, like every Honda, it's slow off the line. And then I just freight trained him on the back end. And the announcer's like, oh, she's lost it. Oh no, here she comes, Mom. And then we ended up going 3 rounds, or we made it to the 3rd round in World Cup, which is like, our goal was just to qualify. So we were blown out of the water.
Oh yeah, dude, I remember seeing you guys go round by round by round. I'm like, damn, like they're really going through this thing. First World Cup, like it's gonna be like a fairy tale story for a second.
We were hoping, but so I made the commitment to Damon that if I ran below an 850, we were gonna upgrade the cage.
Okay.
So that's kind of what started the discussion. And we started to figure out, well, if we're going to do the cage, we might as well go ahead and do all the weight reduction mods as well, so we can be competitive. Like, we still had the stock suspension on the rear. And so we were going to do that. And we were making the budget for what it was going to look like. And then we were talking actually to some of the guys. So we were talking to like Ramy, and he said, well, there's a chassis that's going to be available that might be a better way to go about this and make the work a little bit less. And so we worked out a deal with Benny for his chassis. So that's what we moved to. And then basically we had to modify it to fit me because I'm about a foot shorter than Benny.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of I would say our COVID project. So we got the car, I think middle of February, and we were going to start working on it. And Damon works in IndyCar, so his season was going to start getting really busy. And he ended up being home. He couldn't race for 7 weeks. So we basically just thrashed on that car for 7 weeks, plus some. Yeah. Every night we were in the shop, like no one saw us. And I was using that daggone wire wheel to get rid of that rhino liner that he put in the engine bay. Oh. Worst thing ever. I still give Vinny a hard time for that daggone rhino liner. I think there's probably still bits of wire brush like embedded in my leg.
Oh, I bet. Every once in a while you'll catch one right into the fucking skin to pull it out like a needle.
Yeah.
All right. So, man, that's crazy. I guess just because I see you guys all the time, it just blows my mind that you guys built that thing just this year.
Yeah, we built it and we started testing on it in May.
That's
It's
wild.
insane.
Yeah.
Um,
So
and
so
then
you
we
change a lot of the turbo kit too when you moved over?
So when we went to the 6785, we changed a lot of turbo kit, but when we went to the new chassis, we changed out the intercooler setup. And then it wasn't until July of this year we changed turbos from next gen to, or from second gen to the next gen turbo, which has a lot more power. Um, and so that's where we really picked up the mile per hour and the ET. Um, and we knew the car was going to go faster than what we had done here locally because the weather had just been really, really hot and humid. And we don't get the track prep around here for our type of cars like we get at World Cup or like at FL2K, other events like that that are really targeted for us. So we expect to lose almost a tenth or two by just going to like a well prepped track. But we didn't do much to the engine setup, or I would say the turbo kit setup, but we did make some changes to the engine program slightly this year as well.
Okay, so when was your first pass in the new car? When and where?
I think the first pass was, I want to say May at Muncie.
Okay.
Um, and we took that car out and we only made a couple passes because we actually overextended the throwout bearing.
Okay.
So, and we fought a little bit of just some transmission issues this year early on. So we didn't get a lot of testing. Um, so we kept going back and we were just fighting little things here and there and trying to figure out the car. And it sounds funny. Everyone's like, you should be able to jump one car to the next, but the car felt a lot different for me. I mean, the weight distribution just felt a lot different and the pedals, like I have an overhung pedal setup. That's how we move the car closer to me.
Okay.
So just kind of getting used to how that feels. And a lot of things people are like, oh, you just think through, you do this and then you do that and then you do this. And like, and you know this, like it goes so lightning fast. It's all muscle memory. It has to be like a feel to it. And you just kind of do it. And then you can adjust slightly after you think about it. But Damon will try to just throw like three things at me different to do. I'm like, I can do one, maybe two. Don't give me three.
Yeah. No, that's so true too. It's like there's no like there's no way around that seat time is very important. You know what I mean? And you see it especially in like, okay, my class for example, you got these guys that have been in it 9 years, like Brandon and Adam and some of those guys. It's like there's no way around the amount of time they've had in that car. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Their knowledge of that car, their knowledge of, like you said, muscle memories and all that stuff. It really is like you launch off the line and you just go through a checklist and then you should slow it down, you know?
Yeah.
So so you deal with some of your clutch problems and stuff like that. So at what point did you go faster in this chassis than the previous chassis?
We did it when we streetcar takeover. So in the blazing heat, we ran an 8:45. So that would have been our fastest pass. And then really, we didn't get much testing on the next gen because all of the IndyCar races from earlier in the season got shoved into the back half of the year. So we got the turbo in July, and then Damon was busy racing almost every weekend or testing, it seemed like every weekend after that. So, and we damaged the trans at Streetcar Takeover, so we had to wait for some replacement parts from PPG. And so really we didn't get to test it much. We went down to FL2K with a not a fully tested car, which is not like us. We're probably a team that normally puts, I think we counted them up last year. We put 80 hits on the chassis last year. Uh, yeah, we like to race. I like to race. So we put a lot of hits on the chassis. We're probably like 25 maybe this year, which isn't a lot for us. And a lot of them were kind of some hits that we were still trying to figure out. So went down to FL2K. It was pretty frustrating because we thought we had some ideas of how we were going to do the launch and the burnouts, and that just didn't quite work. But we spent like the whole 18 hours on the ride home, like I'm an engineer. So I said, okay, we're going to start mapping out every single thing. What did we change since World Cup last year? Let's start talking through everything. And we came across what we figured out was a problem. And literally, as soon as we got home, we tested it and we knew we at least had the burnout solved. So then we just wanted to go over everything and make sure the car was good. So we had confidence going into the Derby that we thought we were going to be able to knock it out of the park.
Mm-hmm. And then, so there was no minimum ET this year, right? So
Right.
Was it just first come, first serve, I guess? Is that how they did it?
The way I understood it was, so anyone that had qualified for World Cup had first registration. So we registered in that first registration.
Okay.
And then they kind of, I think, did it for people that had qualified or had registered at one point, and then they opened it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I guess that brings us right up to this event perfectly. So what's your goal as you guys are headed to Hail Mary Derby? Like, do you have a goal in mind?
Yeah, we had probably like 4 or 5 goals that so we have the realistic goal, and then we had the like, this is the ultimate goal. So our realistic goal was, selfishly, we wanted to go faster than an 840. And the reason behind that is no one else in the Midwest in sport front-wheel drive trim has gone faster than an 840. So had to make sure I secured at least, I controlled the Midwest right now.
Yeah.
And then from there, it was our ultimate goal was really, we did want to run a 7, but we just kind of ran out of time with some of our parts. So
Yeah. So you had gone 840. You guys are really thinking a 7 was possible?
we went, yeah, we knew that we had the next gen turbo, and we knew the horsepower. We knew we would be able to gain about 10 mile per hour with the next gen based on what we had seen people's performance when they had gone from Gen 2 to next gen. So we figured that would be at least a couple tenths. And then that was kind of the ultimate goal of, you got to stretch for what you really want. And it's actually written down on our board for our 2020 goals is to run 7s. So we like to set aggressive goals, and then you have your kind of like, okay, here's your realistic ones along the way.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. So I guess tell me about your first hit at Hail Mary Derby. What's in your mind? Like, what's your plan? Like, as the driver, as you roll up, you do your burnout, what is your goal as the driver?
My goal as the driver was to make sure I launched with full boost. So making, like, not worrying about the lights so much, making sure I'm going to give myself the optimal pass. I know we have the power turned down because we want to make sure everything that we change is going to work correctly. So for me, I kind of get focused, try to make sure I'm launching with full boost. I'm going to hit my my shift points every time, because if not, I get yelled at. And then just try to enjoy it a little bit. I mean, this is my own little roller coaster that I ride every time I go down the track, and I do it a little bit for the adrenaline high. I mean, who else gets in a 2,400 pound, basically tin can, and goes almost 190 miles an hour?
Oh, shit. All right. So how did that pass go?
It went good. We were actually surprised how quickly the car went. I think we did an 8:32 that first pass, which we were expecting to be probably more like an 8:50 pass. So the track was hooking, the car was happy, the chassis was really working for us. Through the chute, so one thing we have been dealing with, and we've now made changes to it, is when I throw the chute, the car will wiggle around on the top end, and even though I drive into it, it's just I don't have enough downforce. And we've seen that before, where there's actually a picture of like the rear wheel slightly being off the ground sometimes.
Yeah.
So she wiggled a little, but not too bad. And then just basically the car was happy, no issues, packed the chute, and the car likes to drive back to the trailer, so she drives back almost every time.
Hell yeah. All right. And that was you sent me a video. It's at night, so that wasn't this pass.
No, that was so I ran the 8:32, and then I think trying to remember the second pass. It was an 8:2 pass.
Oh,
So that's what I sent you the video was of the 8:2 pass.
oh,
So basically we did that pass, everything went well. So we just kind of added up the boost a little bit more, and said, okay, let's go and send it again. Did that, basically the same thing, make sure I'm leaving right. Now, one thing I had to be careful of, we have a lot of people that weren't bulbing in right away. So I didn't want to get stuck on the two-step for too long. So I was actually kind of waiting for them to go all the way in and then drag in and then fully light the car up, because I didn't want to be sitting there and waiting for 7 seconds.
yeah.
Um,
Burning the
ran
valve.
Yeah, I didn't want to have to bring the head back to you guys.
I appreciate it.
So basically, same thing. Basically waited for boost again, let off the line, hit all my shift points, and then that one, the mile per hour was up a little bit more because we had upped the boost, and not the best 60 on that one. It was a 1.6, which is uncharacteristic for us.
Yeah.
Typically at our local tracks, we're like a 1.4. We're somewhere in the 1.4s, and then at Jason Miller Prep, it throws us for a loop because it's so sticky. So typically we're in the 1.5s. So we ran that pass, I throw the chute, and that's the video that you have is, I was actually fighting the groove. The car was trying to steer itself out. So I knew it was going to be bad because every time I'm fighting the car at the finish line, it's going to just unload the steering a little bit more. So I kind of knew it was coming. I'm like, okay, this is going to be one of those ones where it really wiggles the rear end around. And it did a pretty good one. You can see me just trying to follow the car and not let it pull itself out of control. And then after that one, pulled back, and I was talking in the lanes actually with some people, and we were talking about downforce and like, well, you should put a wicker on the car. And so we had the guys that were coming in the next day stop by the hardware store and pick us up some angle iron, aluminum, like 1/4 inch, and put that on the car. And then the car drove much better after the parachute through.
So I apologize. There's no sound. I don't really have any way to fix that. But anyway, this is the in-car video of the pass she just talked about. I'll play it a couple times, but pay attention to her driving through the traps. I mean, this motherfucker's out of shape. All right. Woo! Dude, that was like quarter wheel.
Yeah.
That was a lot. So, like I was telling some other people at the race, I've had the car get sideways on me before, and I felt like it was like all out of shape, right? I go back and watch my GoPro, and I put about this much wheel into it. You had it like that. Like, that fucker was sideways.
That was probably the worst one that I've ever experienced. But to say that was unusual, maybe less than, maybe 10, 15% less. It just depends on if I'm fighting a groove or not. So I remember the first time I took this car down a full hit, and I even told Damon this, like, I was at Muncie, so the groove's tiny, and I was fighting the groove and trying to keep the car in the groove, and it like wiggled on me real hard, and I'm like, I got back and I'm like shaking, and I'm like, maybe I built too fast of a car. And I thought about the 4 months that we had just spent grinding on this car, and I was like, put your big girl pants on and get back in that car.
Yeah.
And that's what I did.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you did. It's funny, like, I feel like that driving skill can only be learned racing at Muncie. Like, so for no Muncie, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but at like 1,000 foot, it goes to 2 lane with grass down the middle, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So right when you're rolling the fastest, all of a sudden the track just goes like this. And it's just like, whoo, like pucker for big time. And the shutdown is short at that place. And if you pass the shutdown, you'll jump into a field. Like, it's like uphill down. And it's, whoo. So I think Muncie prepared you for that, is my guess.
Yeah, I mean, and Muncie, when the dew comes in, there's been times that I have spun all 4 gears.
Oh, shit.
Like the power came in fourth gear, and I'm like, I literally pulled the car after that once. I'm like, we're parking it. I'm done. This is before traction control was really on my car, and I was like, nope. No sense wrecking it.
Yeah, no shit. All right, so you get past that. That was the end of day 1, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so all right. So bring me into day 2, which is now Friday.
Yeah, Friday.
Okay. So tell me about Friday morning's pass.
So Friday morning, it was still, we had some more boost left on the table. So let's give it some more boost and basically try to run this at the same time. We did a little bit of change in how we were pulling the boost in. So a little bit of tune-up change to try to pull that 60-foot down because we've been able to get in the mid 1.5s. Like we had done a 1.5, I think 1 earlier in that day. So we thought with the heat, like the car seemed to actually 60-foot better in the heat than it did at night at that track. So made some adjustments, basically going to send it, do the same thing. So get up on the line, get up on the 2-step, wait for the boost to come in and send it. And I can feel it. Like I knew the car was flying because it felt easy.
Yeah.
And it was smooth. And it was like, but I have no concept of how fast anything is. So I'm just going and I throw the chute. We had our little track made wicker that we put on it and the car goes pretty straight. We put the chute out. So I'm like, this is an improvement. I'm not going to kill myself at MIR.
Yeah.
And then pull over and I'm just picking up my chute because I have no idea what time I had run or anything and just going through my normal stuff. And Sonic was out there and he was like chatting with me and he was like, you know what you ran? Like, no, what? Because we were hoping for an 8.1. That was kind of our goal, really. Yeah. And he was like, you ran 8.0. And I was like, so excited. And I think Damon was a little bit annoyed that he didn't get to tell me, but I'm like, that's okay. There's plenty of excitement and plenty of celebration here. So around 8.0 on a 67 is, we thought the car was capable, but just to be able to do it was just amazing.
Yeah, no, that's wild. Hey, this is a perfect excuse to buy some headsets so he can tell you first.
We actually have part of the stuff to do that, and we just didn't get it done in time.
Dude, they're so nice. I'm sure Damon knows we're racing with the IndyCar stuff. It's so nice to be able to talk to each other.
Yeah.
So you go 8.08, right?
8.098.
Wait, 8.098?
Yeah.
Okay. What's the fastest 67 mil front wheel drive car at this point?
It's Jason Marsh, and he has like an 8.002, I believe, is what he did down at OSW last year.
Okay. All right. So I'm guessing you guys are second?
I think we're second. I don't know anyone else that's running 8.0 on 67, but I could be wrong.
So it's a very, very small group that are really pushing the 67s that hard. Like,
yeah,
that's wild. So you get that done. So what's the next pass? I mean, obviously your goal's 7s now, right? I mean, it already was, but what's the next step?
So the next step was we did make some changes to the tune-up. Went to go run the next pass. I think this is like the later afternoon pass. Go up, launch the car, and go to shift 1-2, and it didn't want to go into second gear, which we had a little bit of an issue before on a pass in between like the 8.2 and the 8.0.
Okay.
So as I go to like just drive the car down, I look down and I notice that I lost oil pressure. So I pulled over and turned the car off. So we got it back into the pits. We take a look at it. We pulled the oil filter. It looked good. We thought it was just an oil pump. And then as we start to do more exploration, we found out that we had sheared the key on the crank pulley. So at that point, we just decided the motor was still good. It made no sense to try to like patch it back together. And so we parked it for the rest of the weekend, which was a bummer for us because the conditions were great, but I want to go racing again and we have budget constraints.
Yeah. So that was Friday, right? Friday this all went down? Friday night?
Yeah.
So I guess the rest of the weekend you just kind of hung out as a spectator?
Yeah, we had about like 10 other people from Indiana that came out. So we normally, every year we go to World Cup, we keep adding more people. So we have a pretty good crew that comes. So I just became a spectator and got to sit in the stands and watch some amazing passes and drink some beer and have some fun, which was kind of good. It was kind of like a little mini vacation for us because all of our free time's been kind of working on the car anyways.
Yeah, sounds like it. I mean, shit. For you guys just of building that car this year to getting an 8.0 at the end of the season, or is this the end of the season? Are you done?
I don't know. There's maybe some convincing that I'm trying to do with my husband, but we'll see. Maybe we make another attempt down at Florida, but it's a long drive.
I bet it is. It's got to be nice though to go down and see some Florida weather for a second though.
Yeah, I know. We'll see. I have to see how much I can twist his arm and see what we want to do.
Yeah. When is that race?
I think it's like the first week of December.
Okay, so you got 3 weeks or so?
Yeah.
All right. Well, you'll definitely have to let me know what your plan for that is. I'm sure. I mean, we'll hear from you. You guys will probably be in this week sometime. But
Yeah.
All right. Well, who would you like to thank?
Well, I mean, I have to thank my husband, so Damon Elff, and all of the work that he's done. I mean, all the electronics and a lot of the, all the fab work on the car has really been from him. And he wrenches on it probably sometimes more than me sometimes. So big thanks out to him. And then, of course, everyone at Four Piston, you guys have been a key piece to what I've been doing. Your engine program is amazing. You keep giving us just monsters that we can take out there and beat with that 6785 as hard as possible. And also just even the guidance that you guys have given us about how to set the car up. I got to thank Ramy too. He's given us some guidance along the way, and him and Benny D built a really strong chassis. We haven't had to make very many changes to it at all. So got to thank them for that and setting us up for a strong foundation. Motec USA, I know they've been a key piece to us. We've actually requested some things to be changed in their software so that way we can run some of the things that we are. So, and I'm the guinea pig for a lot of our customers as well. So testing out new things to make our cars go faster and faster. Drive Shaft Shop helped us out with when we went to the pro level axles. And we also have Tilton. They've also been a strong supporter with our clutch program because we've definitely been running that carbon clutch really hard the last couple of years, and it's been holding up strong.
Hell yeah. And so just to add on to that, so Demon Motorsports is your husband's kind of company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you guys sell Motec, right? You're a Motec dealer?
Yeah, so Demon Motorsports, we're a Motec for the Motec engine ECUs, and we also do some small fab work and nitrous as well on the side. Just a small side business as we got to fund our hobby somehow.
All right. Well, yeah, if you guys need Motec goodies, hit up Damon or MissPSI if you guys need any help with that kind of stuff. And the one other thing I wanted to add on was I forgot. So this is Vinny's old chassis. And
Yep.
What was Vinny's fastest pass?
I think it was like an 811 or an 812, something like that. So yeah, a girl had to go faster in his chassis.
Oh, so we love Vinny, but it's
Oh,
fun.
yeah.
Balls. I don't know what it is about Vinny that makes you want to bust his balls, but there's something about his face, you know. So you guys went faster in his chassis, which is hilarious to me. But yeah, no, that's all I had to say. Well, thank you for doing this. I appreciate
Yeah.
it. And
Thanks for having me.
I feel like we're going to be doing more of these for sure. So I look forward to it.
That'd be great.
Hell yeah. All right, we'll catch you later.
Okay, see ya. Bye, Matt.